Hey there, you're listening to the DIY Marketing School podcast. I'm your host and your marketing coach, Melanie Diane Howe. And after you listen to this episode, you're going to be able to go live a lot more regularly. What's going on, my friend? Today, we are going to talk about two of the most common reasons. Well, when I say most, I'm throwing up air quotes, but these are two extremely common reasons why people do not use live video consistently for themselves and their business. And so I'm going to give you kind of some help with these two items because I would probably assume that you maybe struggle with this as well. So here's the deal. It is really, really effective to use live video in your business. If you are new to the podcast and that is new to you, you definitely want to go back and check out some of the older episodes because I am constantly preaching how much I love video and how powerful I really truly believe it is, because it really is incredibly powerful. It's an incredibly powerful tool that just helps you connect with your audience so much better, so much faster. And that's what we want, right? We want to make great connections. So live video is one of the absolute best ways for you to use video in your business. And it's even more effective the more consistent you do it. So, all right, here, let me explain something. I 100% know that there's power in like significant, like very disciplined routines and consistency. What I mean by that is, like, for example, you go live every single Monday at 8 a.m. Everybody knows Monday mornings at 8 a.m., you're going to be live. It's just they come to know it. They expect it. It's Monday morning. They're like, oh, sweet. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to tune in. Or maybe you have a daily show and it's like every day, 9 a.m., whatever it might be. That's kind of one of those things. It absolutely makes it easier for your audience to know when to tune in and to check things out. However, sometimes that is a very difficult way to start. The other thing is that sometimes it's actually good to try out a little variety because you actually can learn about what your audience wants. So, if you go all committed in there and say, I'm going to do Mondays at 8 a.m. and your audience is like, man, I really would wish this was at 9 a.m. or whatever, or evenings are better for your audience. You're not going to know that until you kind of play around with some different things. So I definitely think you want to dabble around a little bit and figure out what works. You also need to figure out what works for you. And if you are in a business type or operation that you literally just can't do it the exact same time and day every week, then that's okay. Don't not do it though. You know what I'm saying? So I do think that sometimes people feel like they kind of use that as a cop-out. Like, well, I can't do it every single week at the exact same time, so I guess I'm just not going to be one of those people. Well, no, you're not going to be one of those people, but I still want you going live regularly. And so this episode we're going to talk about today is two of the biggest reasons why I think people don't go live regularly. They don't do live video regularly. The number one reason I think that comes into play. Now, okay, I'm going to back up one more time. I do think that there's also another reason that's about mindset that keeps people from going live. And that's about they don't like how they look on camera or they're overwhelmed by the technology, yada, yada, yada. There are a lot of reasons why people don't go live. We're not going to talk about those today. We're going to talk about the people who they're okay with live video. They see it. They want to do it. The technology, they've got it figured out, or at least far enough where they feel comfortable clicking the button that says go live. It's still very difficult for even people like that to create a consistent or a regular routine with going live regularly. And so we're talking about that. Okay. So the number one or the first reason I think that people don't go live regularly is they don't have ideas. They run out of content ideas. I was talking to one of my really good friends, Crystal Profit, who's been a guest on the show before. She's geeks out on podcasting. She helps people start and launch profitable podcasts, and make money from podcasts and grow their email list with podcasts. And we were talking, it's very similar. The issue is similar. She said to me that one of the reasons why people don't stick with regular podcast shows is because they run out of content ideas. And I said, oh my gosh, it's the same thing with creating live videos. And, we were talking about it a little bit, and she and I have big beliefs that podcasting and live video go together like peanut butter and jelly. They just do. And what you come up with for ideas for a podcast, for example, you can absolutely use those exact same ideas for Facebook Lives and vice versa. So that's why, it's interesting that she was bringing this up to me. And I'm like, that is one of the exact same issues that, my people have too when it comes to regular live video. So here, there are a lot of ways that you can come up with content ideas, but there's a couple things I want you to remember. One, always think about this. Sometimes I think one of the reasons why people say they run out of ideas is because they say, I've already done a live video about that topic. Okay, yes, maybe you have, but can you break it down differently? Or let's say, you talked about, there were 5 bullet points to your live video. Well, take one of those bullet points and go even deeper with it. Or maybe one of your live videos was a deep level into one bullet point. Okay, well, let's go up a level. Let's go higher. You can still talk about that same bullet point, but can you add a few other elements to your stream? So for example, I could create an entire show on how to create ideas for Facebook Lives. But I'm talking about that in this episode. In fact, I talk about content and developing content ideas in multiple episodes of mine, right? And you will find that there are themes and there are things that you continue to cover more than once. And that's okay because your audience needs to hear it multiple times sometimes to take action or to digest it the correct way. So even though you may feel like you're repeating yourself or, maybe, you feel redundant, it's not, because the way you communicate it, even if it's similar, it's always going to be different because it's a different moment in time. And so it's going to come out different. Maybe one episode you have more energy than the other episode, or one episode you do a demonstration version, the other episode you talk strategy. Yes, you're going to repeat and you're going to cover the same topics more than once, but that does not mean that you can't do that. That doesn't mean it's not effective. And so one of the things I want you to start out with is know that, hey, you've covered some topics before. Excellent. Let's cover them again. Okay. So that's one thing I always want to give people is give them the permission to cover a topic more than once. Again, one of the best things you can do is take one element of what you talked about and then go even deeper with it. So, I have an episode that is still my number one episode right now for my podcast, and it's how to basically have a better profile picture, and it's 11 tips to have a better profile picture. I'm very passionate about your profile picture, by the way. So if you haven't listened to that episode, definitely go check it out. I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes because it's important. But that episode, I talk about profile pictures all the time. And there's one of those tips, there's a couple of tips in that episode that I actually have talked about in their own shows. So that's an example of taking maybe one or two of the 11 tips and going even deeper, maybe doing a demo. And I have done that. And so, I have taken content from the podcast and then I've done a Facebook Live inside of my Facebook community and did a little mini training on 2 of the tips. And so that is also effective. So, again, take your concept, break it down, go deeper. Or if you did go deep on one element, great. Let's back up a little bit. Let's go even higher level and cover that same thing, but add a few more layers to it as well. And so, you obviously have, your own business and your own content strategy and how you help people. So you're going to have to kind of come up with this yourself, but take those main elements and break them out differently and then share them in their own episodes. The other thing I want to say about that is that it is okay if let's say, for example, you have a podcast. Well, great. Every podcast episode, it could totally be a Facebook Live show, or do the same thing I just described. Take, if you're going to share 5 key points to something in your podcast episode, take one of those points and go really deep with it in a Facebook Live. So there's that. So, you're definitely going to find yourself feeling redundant when you come up with your ideas, but that is not a bad thing. So always remember that. So the other resource I want to provide for you when it comes to content ideas for Facebook is, I have a freebie out there. It's a free PDF that includes 50 ideas for Facebook Lives. And these are pretty specific ideas and they're broken into different categories. And I do think that that's also one of the best ways to come up with content ideas is to come up with categories. So for example, one of the categories could be interviews. Okay, now you're going to think of 5 or 10 people to interview. You can do that, right? And so, but if you're just sitting down and thinking, what am I going to talk about next week? You're going to struggle. But if you sit down and break up your ideation into these categories, it actually does help you come up with more. It's almost like you create those miniature zones of genius. So for example, when you're thinking about interviews, it's easy for you to kind of sit and brainstorm people that you would want to bring onto your show. And so if you do your brainstorming in those categories, you will probably find that the ideas are going to flow a lot more naturally. But go grab my list because it's a really good list that will help prompt you to coming up with your own ideas. Some of them you can literally like take the exact idea word for word and be like, I could totally do that show. I could totally do that idea for my business. Others, you might have to tweak or adapt the idea a little bit so that it fits you and your business. But there's 50 freaking ideas. Like, come on. If you can't come up with some content ideas from this list, then I'm not sure what's wrong. I don't know how to help you, to be honest with you. So go grab it. You can get it at melaniediane.com/50. So melaniediane.com/50 is where you can get the list of 50 Facebook Live ideas. So I highly recommend you go check that out. I put it together, work into it, and I've gotten great feedback from a lot of my people on that list. So, okay, now the other kind of limiting issue that keeps people from, doing live videos on a regular basis is the setup. And so by setup, I mean, okay, so let's imagine, I'm sure that you've fallen into this before where you're like, okay, I got to do a live video. Okay, great. I got to get out my tripod. Okay, where am I going to do it? Okay. The kids are at the kitchen table, so I'm going to go over here. Or I got to be on location, okay, time to do a live video. Okay, I got to move all this stuff around. I got to clean up my office. I got to rearrange. Oh, man, I'm exhausted thinking about all these processes. I've done the same thing. I used to do the exact same thing and be like, okay, I want to do a live video. And I'd have to like rearrange everything, move stuff around, just change it up, right? And I got tired of doing that. And I just found that one, it just became laborious. And laborious, by the way, is a word I just like to use. So it's just a fun one. Say it yourself, laborious. I'm sorry, I'm a geek sometimes, but it's laborious, which means it takes a lot of work to constantly be doing that. It's not productive, right? And so it's just a bit of a time suck. And so what happens is when you sit there and think about going live, you're just like, oh, my office is a mess today, or oh, I don't want to get the ring light out again or whatever. And you're just like, I'm not doing it. It makes it a lot easier to not do it. It's kind of like going to the gym. If you have your workout clothes out and ready to go, if you set them out the night before and you have everything ready and you know you're going in the morning and you literally sit your clothes out, you've got your gym bag ready, everything is, you program the coffee machine, you are set. You get up in the morning, you're like, boom, I'm just going to switch these clothes out, get my coffee and head to the gym. But if you had to get up, figure out what you're going to wear to the gym, pull all the stuff out, you're adding steps, you're adding a little bit more decision making, which makes it a lot easier to not go. And it's kind of similar when it comes to creating video, because a lot of you don't love the process. You don't love live video. Personally, I love live video. I'm like looking for reasons to go live, but you may not love it. So you need to make sure the barrier of entry is as minimal as possible. And one of the best ways you can do that is to actually create a dedicated space or a dedicated setup. And so there's a couple ways you can do this. One, you can invest in, multiple pieces. If you, for example, if you have a production light, a ring light, or something that you use for different purposes, then maybe go ahead and invest in a second one or a tripod, right? I definitely think that there's a few elements that you need to have set up at all times, ready to go. One is you need to have a tripod that has, if you're using a mobile device to go live, then you need to buy a mobile device bracket. And if you use that mobile device bracket for other purposes, then buy a second one and just have something that's dedicated so that it is simple and easy to do. Personally, I want you to actually dedicate a full space. If you have a separate room, a spot, a corner, whatever it might be, where you can actually make sure that it's easy for you to go live and just leave your stuff out, do it. Some of you are thinking, Melanie, I don't want like a bunch of like production looking stuff or things sitting out, it's cluttery, whatever. Okay, I understand that too, but then let's make sure that the process is easy and simple. So maybe you have a box or a tote and you put all of your pieces in it together. Done. It's got its own, power strip. Everything's already plugged into it. You just plug the power strip in. These are just tiny little ways. All I want you to do is I want you to look at your setup process and I want you to find opportunities to simplify it and to streamline it so that it is as quick and simple and easy as possible. Ideally, you would not have to do anything. You would literally decide, okay, it's time to go live. And you would go to your spot and you have everything ready to go. You plug in your computer or whatever it is you're using and you're ready. For me, I will tell you that I have a dedicated space for everything. My desk in my office doubles as my studio. And I use the word studio because that is, I do want you to start to look at this as a studio. I don't want you to overthink it, but I do want you to kind of think about your live videos because you're going to go live regularly. I want you to kind of think of it as a studio. Now, some of you are in business where this is actually not complicated because you're like, my live videos are simple. I just have my little tripod, I put my phone on it, and I just go live, sitting right here, ready to go. Great. That's awesome. You are ready to go. You probably don't have the issue of the setup being a barrier of entry, right? Others of you are thinking, I never know what to do. I never know where to put the camera. I never know where to put the light. Well, then figure that out, dial it in and leave it there. So for me, my office is in my first floor family room that is also where my daughter hangs out. She has her own little kind of computer in the corner where she's been playing like Roblox and learning coding and stuff lately. She plays with her slime down here sometimes, which drives me bonkers. God, shout out to all you slime parents. But it's my family room and it faces a patio door that goes out to my pretty little patio, and my office is down here. It's like a living room and this office space. And is it ideal? Do I love it when I have friends over? No, but this is what I do. This is my job. And I have a big old ring light that is right in front of my desk that you can literally see from the street if you look in my door. And I have a tripod. I have my camera set on it, and I have my lights. I've got my special lights that I've kind of been doing. If you've been following me over on Facebook, you have seen my lavender light in the background that I love. But I have left these things this way, and like I said, here's my desk and it's where I work. And do I love having all this stuff around? Not necessarily, but it's what works for me. It helps me stay consistent. It helps me stay regular, because when I have that moment when I say, oh my gosh, I want to go live. I want to do a live Q&A in my group, or oh, I can't wait to show them this new trick I just figured out in StreamYard. I want to go live and tell my group this. It is literally me turning on the ring light and switching one little thing. I don't even have to get out of my seat anymore because I'm connected it all to my Amazon Echo devices, and it's ready to go. And I just click the button, go live, and there I am. And so this is obviously, this may not work for you. You may say, well, Mel, my office can't really double as my studio. I understand that. But again, what I'm saying that I want you to do is I want you to figure out a way to pick a dedicated space. Maybe it's not in your office. Maybe it's somewhere else. That's fine. Or create a dedicated setup that is fast and simple and easy to repeat every single time, that it is, okay, great, time to go live. Boom, 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 done. Don't make it difficult. Don't, if you've got, like I said, if you don't want to have all your stuff out, then go buy a tote and put the stuff in a tote, whatever your equipment is. Again, those of you that are just going live with your cell phone, which I love, which is great, you probably don't have this problem. I'm talking to the people who are looking at different types of Facebook Live setups, different things. So you just create a dedicated way. The other thing that kind of goes along with this that I do think that helps is if you're a bit new to all of it and you feel like every time you go live, you have to kind of refresh yourself, refresh your brain. Like, okay, what is it I'm supposed to do? What are all the things I'm supposed to do? Then make a freaking checklist. Again, make the process as streamlined, simple, and repeatable as possible. And so, make yourself a little checklist. Like, okay, here's the things I do. Put the phone on the tripod, hook up the mic, make sure this mic's plugged in, whatever it is you're doing. Do all those things, get the light out, just so that you don't have to think about it. It's super simple and it's super easy. And then, with that, if you know that if you do have a dedicated day that you're going live, then get your setup set up plenty of time in advance. Kind of like the whole going to the gym thing. Maybe the night before, maybe if you're going live the next morning, then before you shut everything down for the day, get your setup ready to go so that you come downstairs and you are ready. You don't have to think about getting ready. You can think about getting yourself ready, meaning mentally ready and jazzed up for your live production versus getting all the gear and getting the things and the lights all positioned and whatever you want to do. So that would be how I would say that. So the two things, one, I think that people, the reason they don't go live regularly is that they run out of content ideas. So go grab the free list of 50 Facebook Live ideas, melaniediane.com/50. And then always remember, you can repeat topics. You can break topics down differently. You can take concepts, you can go deeper, or you can go even higher level. You can you can reposition the topic. You can go mindset and you can go tactical. You can go strategy, but it's the same topic. So always remember that. The other reason is that people don't go live regularly is the process of going live is laborious and it's not structured. It's not repeatable. It's not simple. So simplify the process, create a dedicated space, leave your stuff out, or make it so that it's very accessible. So, maybe you move your light in the corner, great, but keep it plugged in so that all you have to do is go move it from the corner and turn it on. Keep your stuff set up as much as possible. And if you can't have a dedicated space, then make the process as simple as possible. You might have to invest in a couple of extra pieces of equipment, maybe double up on some things if you're, using things for different. If you have a camera, for example, that you're using for other purposes, maybe consider a new camera, another camera that doesn't have to be expensive, but just set yourself up so that you're literally as quickly and as efficiently and simply as possible. You're just sitting down and you're like, okay, it's time to go live. And so I gave you a few tips on that for sure. So I know that one's a little bit more complex and it's very much depends on your situation, depends on your office, depends on where you go live, all those things. The point is simple. Just make it so that it's as simple and as efficient as possible so that it doesn't require a bunch of work and effort, because that is going to keep you from going live regularly. That's one of the things I find for sure. So I hope that this was helpful. As with every episode I create, I hope is helpful. But I am just super passionate about live video and I want people to use live video. I know that in my business, I have gone from being really consistent, really, really regular, as much as literally every single day for an entire month. And I saw results. I know how it affected my followers, the engagement I was experiencing. And then I know what it's like to kind of like go dark a little bit or to not be as regular, right? And so I know the difference it makes. I've seen the difference, especially inside of my Facebook group, DIY Marketing with Melanie. If you're not in there, feel free to join us. It's a bunch of people that are doing their own marketing DIY style. And I would love to see you in there, but I have definitely seen a huge shift in the group when I am really present and active with Facebook Lives in the group versus when I'm not as active with Facebook Lives. So I know the difference it makes. That's why I'm very passionate about it. We are working our butts off to build these businesses and to grow our audiences and to put ourselves out there. And I just believe that Facebook live video in general, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, wherever, is very powerful. And so I want you doing it. And so I'm very passionate about getting people to do more of it and taking down those barriers. So if you have other things that prevent you or get in your way from going live, then do me a favor. I want you to slip into the DMs. You can find me on Instagram at Melanie Diane. Of course, I'm on Facebook. You can find me in the Facebook group or send me an email. Send an email to hello@melaniediane.com and just tell me, what is your struggle? I will respond to you. I promise you, I will give you a personalized audio response, video response, or minimum a text response. But I can tell you right now, I want to hear from you. I want to know what's holding you back from going live because it's powerful. And I mean, if Facebook themselves are telling you to use Facebook Live, why aren't you? We only have so much time and we've got to make sure that the things we're doing, the efforts we're making can have the biggest bang for our efforts. So that's what I have to say. That's my little soapbox for today. I hope that you liked the episode and I hope that you are enjoying the podcast in general. If you're not subscribed already, I would love to have you subscribe so that you don't miss a beat and you don't miss an episode. So, all right. And I also hope to see you over in the Facebook community. And if you are already in that group, then feel free to share your thoughts about this episode or, maybe just even pop in there and go live. You're allowed to go live in my group. I'd love to see you go live in my group. All right, friends, that's what I got for you today. I hope that you have a wonderful day and go do something amazing today. And as always, go be freaking awesome.